Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rodgers-Blake and I'm a professional animator. And what we're going to be talking about today is we're actually going to have this second animation community challenge, which just so happens to be the first one of 2022. So for those of you who don't know, the animation community challenge is something that, well, it's a little competition that I throw out on Twitter where I challenge the animation community to animate something that I posted up, and that could be a clip of anything from a sword attack to a parkour move or anything of that nature. So without further ado, let's jump into the second animation community challenge of the Advanced Animation Academy. Hey everybody, how's it going? So let's start off this month's animation challenge by actually watching the reference that I submitted to everybody, or posted I should say. It's nice, it's got a lot of energy in it, it's cool, it's just a cool thing to animate. So let's see how our contestants did. Let's start off with Guillem Rodríguez, because why not? Okay, Guillem, let's have a look at your animation. Let's see what you got. Actually, let me get myself off screen, or at the very least make myself slightly smaller. Whoopsie. There. Okay, so now we've seen your animation a few times. There's a few things that stand out to me immediately, and right off the bat, the very first thing that stands out to me is that you need to adjust your timing, because right now the timing feels very linear through the entire animation. And yeah, let me see this again. Okay, so the very first thing is I'll adjust the timing. And the way that you can adjust the timing on this animation is, firstly, compare it to the reference. Make sure that your settings in Maya are the same as your reference footage. So if your reference footage is at 30 frames a second, make sure that your Maya scene is at 30 frames a second, so you're best able to match it pose for pose. The next thing that you want to be able to do as well is that animation doesn't often transfer. If you basically copy an animation in real life and try to transfer it into 3D, it often doesn't look good. So my advice to you would be to open up the time editor within inside of Maya, time or tracks editor, it doesn't matter because they both do the same thing, and adjust the timing so that you can exaggerate timing and get a better feeling animation, because right now the timing is very consistent and you're not feeling the weight or the force behind any of the attacks. Also, the posing doesn't help that as well, but I'm going to get into that in a moment. So let's play your animation through again. You can see what I mean about the timing feels very linear, but then when we compare that to the reference footage that you have here, the timing isn't linear. You see here, you got a nice hold in the middle of the animation. So the slash, quick, slow, quick. That's the timing of the animation, or the rhythm of the animation, I should say. And one thing you should pay attention to is when you're looking at reference is look at the rhythm of the animation, and then don't copy it one for one. Use the reference to extrapolate the information that you need. So when I'm looking at this reference, the very first thing that I notice is, okay, I notice the rhythm of the animation, or the beat of the animation. So it's fast, slow, fast, fast, slow, fast. And then that tells me that the very beginning of my animation, the very first slash is going to be quick, then there's a nice hold while he's in the air, which gives me a nice time to, you know, really exaggerate the poses and push them there. And then the slash here is fast as well, and I would then exaggerate it by even following through a little bit more. But that's personally what I would do with this animation. So when we go back to your animation, Guillem, that's where you can begin to improve this animation. Firstly, adjust the timing. So you want to have that fast, slow, fast, because right now you don't get it, because here's what we got with your animation. Fast, then it's just a linear timing after that. Adjust the timing, this animation will feel much better. Secondly, you need to have some more follow through and overlap on your sword swings, because right now the upper body, the torso in particular, or this section here, I'm sure you can see my mouse. Let me just draw over it, get this pencil and just do the thing. This section here, your torso, is quite stiff throughout the entire animation, and there needs to be some more flexibility on it. Based on the way that your animation is behaving, it tells me that your upper body, the chest, the arms and everything is all in FK. And with this animation, I wouldn't necessarily have it in FK. I would actually have it in IK. Maybe, sure, you can block out the poses in FK, then switch them to IK, but I would start this animation with my limbs in IK and my torso staying in FK. So what ends up happening here is that right now you can see this pose here, this first slash, is not very appealing. And another thing that you can do as well to always make attacks make feel better, and this is a general rule of thumb that you and anybody that's watching this video can follow, is have the attacker facing the opponent that he's actually trying to attack for as long as possible, because just by that little change of having them feel more focused, it makes the attack feel more intentional, more spiteful, and it has a lot more oomph behind it. It really does help. Another thing that you want to do as well, try to avoid having the basically broken ankles as well. You can amend that by basically using the foot roll, because most of these rigs come with foot roll. So then you want to have something like this. Where are you? Something like that. Then the heel coming up, then going into the shin, and then like that. Because what happens, it creates a more appealing pose, and you don't want to break the body unless you're going to do it over a single frame, because that's something you do for an animated effect. Anyways, I'm kind of getting into really small details, but at this stage of the animation, this is what I would consider a rough first pass. So instead of giving you all nitty gritty details of what I'll do to improve this animation, I'm going to give you broad strokes that you can then take and then apply your own creative touch to it. So as I said, first thing, adjust the timing. Make sure that's not so linear. The next thing, you want to adjust the poses. Go through, identify your key poses. So like here is a key pose, here should be a key pose because it's going to be the anticipation for the slash. Here should be another key pose because it's the first slash. Then here so this pose here coming round should be another key pose, and then here should be another key pose. Then landing here coming through should be another key pose. Yeah, you just need to clean up your poses. I've also noticed that you've got the sword clipping through the body here as well, so you want to focus on that and make sure that those things aren't happening, because we feel it and we will notice it. Also as well, I would look at the animation principle follow through and overlap, because one of the key areas that's prevalent in this animation is here. You can see that the swords are not following through and swinging round the way that they should, because if you look at the arms from here onwards, they're moving at the same time as if they're locked in a on rails to each other where there's completely parallel. That's not how the body would behave in real life. So I would work on that, adjust that, and trust me, you have a much better animation. Focus on making this character feel more organic by having some follow through and overlap on the body. It's particularly the upper body, because right now the torso feels very stiff. I would basically go back at the reference, take a look at it, and basically study it almost frame for frame. Don't copy it frame for frame, because what you're then doing is rotoscoping. But what I'm asking you to do is use the reference to extrapolate the information that you need, so that you can then impart that in your own animation, and then you can exaggerate things and add your own creative spin on it, and then truly make it your own. This character here, from an aesthetic standpoint, has everything that you need to make this animation really sell. So take advantage of that, and take advantage of the reference, because it's a really good one, and apply the animation principles, and you will have a much better animation. So to wrap things up, because I've rambled on for quite a long time, what I'm telling you to do in bullet points basically is adjust the timing first and foremost. That's the very first thing that you want to do. Go fast, slow, fast, and use the reference to basically give you an indication of what the timing is for that. And you can exaggerate the timing, there's nothing wrong with that. For example, you can have it really quick and have a longer hold here, and then be really quick, and there's nothing stopping you from having some creative freedom there. But follow the reference, because it's giving you the guidelines as to what the timing is, and that will help the animation a lot. The second thing is look at your key poses and push them. Push them, push them, push them. And one of the ways that you can study pushing key poses is by looking at something like comic books, anime, and manga and things like that, because that medium, they show a lot of action without showing any animation. So when you get good at creating poses, and then you're starting to sort out everything that happens in between them, you ultimately have a very good looking animation just by adjusting the timing and sorting out the poses. Then after that, once you've done that, I would then go through and look, where can I exaggerate some of my poses? Where can I push them? Where can I add some more animation principles like follow through and overlap? Look out for things here like the hyperextension on the legs, because as you play it through here, you can feel that pop, and the weight isn't coming through as well. So the way that you can make this have more weight is by, again, adjusting the timing, and then when it does land, having the hips sink even lower, because right now they don't go down very far, and the weight isn't transferring the way that it should. Also, I would bear in mind how to follow through and overlap with the swords as well, because right now this isn't necessarily cutting it, but it's okay. When I started off when doing animation, I was terrible. I really was, and I'll be honest with you, if I tried this animation at very early in my career, like not even in my career while I was studying animation, my result wouldn't be, your result was actually here, was actually better than what I would have had. So nonetheless, follow those points and you will have a better animation, I promise you. So let's move on to the next animator. And the next animator that we're going to look at, let's look at Sam here. Okay. I remember this animation. So this animation from Sam, to give him some credit, isn't actually finished. He hasn't had the time to finish the animation to the level that he wanted to. But the reason that I'm happy to review this animation, and I deliberately did it right after Guillem's, is because this one kind of shows exactly what I'm talking about. And what I mean is, even though the animation is in what we like to call stepped keys, and stepped keys basically means that as the timeline is playing, there's no interpolation in between the poses. So it's going to stay on this pose. As you can see, I'm scrubbing through here. So have a look at my timeline down here, where you can see my mouse circling. And as I scrub through, you notice that it's not changing until it gets to the next frame and it holds. That there is called stepped keys. And what stepped keys is useful for is for you to focus on the poses of your animation and basically sorting out all the steps to make the animation actually work the way that you need it to. And basically, if you get that right, you can get the timing down and you can get the poses down. And from you get that down, you've basically got a majority of the animation down. Then all you need to do then is add some detail and make sure that the interpolation in between frames is okay. And then once you do that, you generally have the animation that you need. So thank you for actually submitting this in this state, because it's a good way for me to show Guillem what it is that you should be aiming for. And the way that you can get to step keys, you can literally right click on the timeline inside of Maya, click on enable steps preview, and it will help you a lot. Honestly, if you want some animation lessons, Guillem, going back to you, I'm more than happy to give you some animation mentoring. Just hit me up by DM on Twitter or my email at info@advancedanimationacademy.com, and we can get to talking and see what we can do to help improve your animation skills. But anyways, enough about that. Let's move on to Sam's animation and what he can do to improve this. Let's watch this a couple of times. I'm gonna be honest, there's not very much wrong with this animation. It's just that it's still in stepped keys. So I would like to see this in the spline mode, because then I'll be able to give more feedback. But as of right now, from this particular angle, this animation has almost everything that it needs to have, and you've done a very good job while still keeping it in stepped keys. Because even as we hit, like, just the timing feels nice. Even as we get down, sorry, there it is. Even as we see the follow through on the body from, you know, landing here, there is landing here and then following through, that feels nice. I can't really comment on the landing so much because again it's in step key, so I'm not seeing the actual foot make contact with the ground, so there's not that much I can actually comment on until you show me in spline mode. But based on what you're showing me so far, the animation's cool. It is good. It's a good animation. Maybe you could probably change one of the poses here, somewhere in the middle. Just trying to go back and find it. Yeah, here. Maybe you could adjust this, like, you know, like maybe by having this leg up. By having like this leg up here and straight, and then having this one like yeah, there, then down here, and then having that up there like that, because then it creates a really appealing pose like that. And then yeah, that can stay there like that. That looks cool. And then having that, like, yeah, it'd probably just be a slightly different pose. But I'm going to be honest with you, in this stage of the animation, me talking about the particular pose that you got is just me nitpicking. I will need to see the animation in spline to give it a full in-depth basically critique and feedback. So when you're done with the animation, I'll happily review the final animation that you have for you off air, and you will take it from there. But I'm kind of glad that you did submit this, because it's a good way for me to show Guillem Rodríguez what it is that I was talking about in terms of his animation, how you can use the posing and timing just to make the animation itself be quite close to the reference. Because if we just look at your animation again, and then we're going to compare it to the actual reference itself, you can see that the timing is obviously not exactly the same, and that's fine, but it has the same energy, feel, intention and momentum that the reference has, and I think you've nailed it just from having it in the stepped keys mode as it is right now. So I think you've done a great job. So nonetheless, let's move on to our next shot by Olivato. I hope I said your name right, and let's see what you got. Okay, so first I'm going to say I like that you tried to be more creative and then basically not just follow the reference one for one, because one of the things that I said in my last animation challenge is that when you get reference, you're not supposed to follow the reference one for one. In fact, all you're using the reference for is to extrapolate the information that you need to actually complete the animation. Because most of the time, we use reference when we don't understand how something is meant to move, or we're trying to get a grasp of the timing of something. So I'm fine with you kind of deviating away from the animation, but this still has some things that need to be done to improve it. And for me to best talk about that, I'm actually going to cut out the first bit of your animation and go straight from this angle here, because this is where we get a better view. Okay, so the first thing that I'm noticing here is, as the similar thing with Guillem Rodríguez, is your timing needs some work, Olivato. And if you just look at it, it's like boing, boing. The second jump feels even higher and more, and holds even longer than the first. And that's not something that I think works well with this animation. So like, for example, if I was to do an attack like this in the real world and following through like this, my second jump won't be as high as my first. So kind of like the bouncing ball, and that's a good example for this animation. So if we take, actually no, let me go here so I can see where you start from. Boom, let's get that, let's get this. So as he's come through and he's done his attack, you can start here, then bounce up and across, then up and then across, and then a slight little follow through, settle, and then basically come back into resting position. That's kind of the trajectory arc that it should follow. But if we go through your animation here, you can see that he's jumping up way high, which I personally wouldn't do for this animation. Actually, you know what? No, I take that back. Jumping up this high is fine, but the second one jumps up even higher. So let's just take an example of the line of the hips. Let's get that out of here. Actually, no, let me do that actually. And then we're going to get another one, and then draw a line on your hips there. So that's where the hip height is for the second jump. And then the first jump, you can see here that it's yeah, it's actually lower. Oops, let me undo that. It's actually lower than this one, where it should be the other way around. So I would really pay attention to the arcs on these jumps. I wouldn't have them so high. If you're going to have them that high, then they need to travel further, because yeah, that amount of height, you're not going to jump that high and not have the same, like a matching trajectory forward. It's just not going to work well with this animation in terms of the momentum that it needs. So I think you've probably taken it a little bit too far, so I dialed it back a bit. So that's the first thing I noticed with this animation. Let's play it again so I can spot the second thing. The second thing I notice is, as we're coming through here, let's scrub through this frame by frame. Yeah, this is what I mean. So you can see here that what's happening here is, if we pay attention to this arm here, this arm basically is dead straight all the way through until here, whereas you could have tucked this arm in and got it ready into a nicer pose from here. So then what can end up happening is, like, let me draw over this. That's a good pose for me to draw over. So let's do this. So you could, again, remember, I'm only drawing over it because it's here, but I wouldn't have it this high. I just really wouldn't. So this pose, whoops. This pose here is fine. Yep, that's all good. Then you could even have, you could potentially even have the knee come outwards here, and then have the body twist over a little bit. Sorry, wrong way around. Yeah, have the body twist. Oh, no, why am I getting this wrong? Yeah, just have the body twist over there, and then this arm here should already be back here with the, let me get a different color for the sword actually. Would already be back here, so that it's basically dragging behind. So, and then with this sword here, basically the same thing, but it'd be across that way with the arm going, different color, sorry. With the arm going that way, and then the head going that way, looking this way, well, down, but you get the idea. So basically what the point is that I'm trying to say, even though I had this really bad drawing, is I need to see some more follow through, overlap and drag with these swords. So like you can really exaggerate these, like even here, like this arm here, there's no reason why this sword arm here, where's the pen, why this sword arm here can't be reversed and bent backwards this way, because what that does, it creates a nicer silhouette as it's coming through. So that's something I pay attention to as well. So just basically focus on the character silhouette and how that's gonna blend into the next action. And then even here, that's fine, but again, I'd like to see more follow through and overlap on the swords themselves. So for example, when we're having this pose here, let's use the yellow pen, and we've got the final pose here. I would actually exaggerate this. So I'd put the hips over here, I'd have a straight leg here, I'd have a bent leg here like you got there, I'd have this tucked over here a bit more, arm over here like this, and then this arm kind of almost bent backwards like that. Let me draw the head, so the head's there like that. I'm going to get a different color for the swords, and then the swords can be like that, and then kind of like that. And then I would have it kind of relax and then settle into a into the standing pose that you saw in the reference, because that's something that I see that you've omitted from your animation, and is something that would really help the animation basically finish. And so if we go back to the actual reference itself and get this terrible stickman drawing off screen, and let's just play it through and just watch it for a second, you can see what's happening with the with this arm here. You can see it really follows through before it settles into that final resting pose. You can see it there. And that's what's missing in your animation. You're missing that same follow through and overlap. And honestly, adjusting those poses, not having it jump so high, is going to make your animation not only feel better, it's going to feel smoother, and it's going to feel better in general. And that's just generally what I do to improve your animation. So again, to reiterate, sorry, wrong one, I believe it was this one. Yep. So Olivato, what I would do to improve this animation, although I kind of like the whole high bouncing bunny rabbit effect, I wouldn't have it jump so high, for one. I'd make sure that the second jump isn't as high as the first jump, so that it feels like the momentum is carrying through. So it feels like he's doing like jumping attacks rather than it doesn't make sense for the second jump to be higher than the first. Honestly, it will help the animation a lot. I think the animation itself in general is actually pretty good. It's just small things that need to be done to make it a little better, and that's just really comes down to the posing, some more follow through and overlap on the arms, like make the arms feel a little bit softer. Probably some overlap on the chest as well would really help. And then, as I keep mentioning, don't make it jump so high, or if you're going to make it jump this high, make it travel a lot further. And another thing as well, if you're going to make it travel a lot further, it means that you're going to have longer holds in the air as well, so that's going to be a lot of work. So the thing that I'll do is I'll reduce the height of the animation, because it's the quickest way to get the most effective result as possible. And then yeah, I like the little wobble that you've done with the ears there. Might be a little too exaggerated, but that's okay, it's completely fine. So let's look at it again, just see if I see anything else. No, that's pretty much it. I think if you just do that and adjust those poses and the timing a little bit and the height of the jumps, I think this animation will be fine. So good job overall. So next, what we have is this animation from Eugene. He's I believe he's one of the developers at Cascaduer. And Cascaduer, for those of you who don't know, is an animation software that is actually really, really good. It's a physics-based animation software, and it does a lot of work for you. Like for example, you have FK and IK built into the same rig, similar to what Biped is like in 3ds Max. So similar, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I've used Cascaduer before, and it's much better than Biped's Biped in 3ds Max. It just is. So let's look at your animation, because that's what we're here for. So first thing I want to say, I noticed, is that your animation is pretty much a dead stamp of the actual reference. And that's great. That kind of shows you what the power of Cascaduer can do and your own skills as an animator. Because if you just go back to the reference really quickly, yeah, besides the get up pose there, it feels like a 1-for-1. Well, obviously you haven't had the get up bit there, I forgot about that. But anyways, point is, the actual slashes themselves feel really nice, really smooth. And this is just an example of, like, you know, what you can do with like good timing and good posing. And I'm kind of glad that you showed it to me from many angles. So as for improving the animation, as I always say, and this is something that I want everybody to bear in mind, and you as well, Eugene, is that when you try to copy animation as it is in real life, even in really good clean reference like what you've been supplied, it doesn't translate well into 3D animation. So what you're going to have to do, or what I would do with this animation, because it's more or less done, I would exaggerate the timing to be a little bit more... No, I just exaggerate the timing, honestly. Like here, that timing's nice. You could probably have a longer hold in the air and then a faster release on the second slash. That's just something I would do. That's just a creative choice that you could do. Another thing I would do as well is I would again exaggerate it, because when I slash through here, yeah, you want to make sure that the sword is actually locked into that hand as well. But yeah, I would exaggerate this well. So this pose here, let me find it from the side angle. Yep, so here, what I would do here to improve this animation is I would, again, like I said with Olivato's animation, I would exaggerate this. Have him, actually no, let me undo this. I'd have the hips come even lower down. Exaggerate this, exaggerate it like that. Then you can, not that far. Then you can really bring the hips over, and then you can really like do that with them. So that's like that. Just draw the swords a different color. Well, not that far over. That's bad. That's a bad example. It's something like that. And then I would have it then settle back into its actual resting pose, because what happens there is that you get more force behind it just by pushing the poses. So honestly, with this animation, I'm going to be honest with you, Eugene, there's not that much that you need to do to make it, to bring it up a level. All I would do is exaggerate the timing, and then in parts here, like the main key poses, I would exaggerate. So from here, I probably have this foot here already touching the ground. I need to find it from another angle. Let's play it through so I can find it from the side. From the side, the front, I mean, or back, either one. Yes. So here you can have honestly, these are just minor things, but it might seem like minor and I'm nitpicking, but it will really help the animation. So you have this foot already planted on the floor, hips here, leg could be tucked in a little bit more like that. Then I'd have the whoa, draw that wonky. Then I'd have that spine arc that way, shoulders. Let me draw a different color. It's really nice because it's a light screen. Yeah, yellow is not really gonna. Yellow won't suffice. So let's do this. So like that, straight down, tighter angle on the legs here. Then you can have a nice curvature on the spine here into the shoulders, and then you can have this arm here angled up a little bit higher, and then this one here angled at a nice sharper bend, and then obviously keep the eyes focused forward and the head kind of up, because what that then does is that when you do that and then you go into your next pose, it's going to go into the next pose, which you're then going to push and exaggerate and then settle. It's going to make all your slashes have a lot more force behind them, and that's ultimately what you want to do, is because your timing is very good, your spacing is obviously excellent because you've done it based on Cascaduer's physics animation system, which has so many tools to help you with like foot placement, spacing, and things like that. It's really, really good. And what's nice about Cascaduer as well is that it has the Unreal 4 mannequin built into it, so that you can plug your animations into your Unreal project very easily. So it's a very fast way of making animations like this and iterating and getting them into your game. But nonetheless, As for the actual animation itself, Eugene, I think you've done a great job. I think you've done the best job in this week so far. It probably would have been given to Sam in the end, but because I don't have his splined animation, I'm going to give it to you because, yeah, I think you've done an amazing job. But there are obviously some things that you can do to make this a little bit better. As I said, basically by just pushing the poses, exaggerating some things, and some of your poses, like, you know, your overlap and the way it gets to the end, exaggerate that, probably add a little bit more squash and stretch there, like on the knee, so like make it bounce lower and then settle into its pose. Then obviously maybe adjusting the timing a little bit, not by very much because the timing is actually pretty good. And then just paying attention to little things, and this is just me nitpicking at this point, like where is it? No, I saw it earlier. Yeah, as the arm is coming through here, like you might want to rotate the pole vector upwards so that you're not getting this weird deformation here. And then as you're coming through here, you can see you've got like a broken wrist here. And I know that probably the reason you've got that is because you're focusing on the sword's tip and make sure the trajectory of that is okay. That's fine. But then obviously you want to adjust the wrist so that it's actually having a grip that's not going to look funky and break the wrist. Ultimately, you don't notice it in the actual animation itself, but trust me, sometimes it's these little details that you need to add to your animation that's going to separate it from making it a good animation to a great animation that can be a showcase piece in your animation reel, if that's ever what you wanted to use it for. Or if you want to use it for Cascaduer, like for advertising and demonstration purposes, I would make sure that the animation is completely flawless, and I would do so by just sorting out little things like that, adjusting the timing and whatnot. And I know that you've recorded the actual animation process of you doing it in a time lapse. I'm going to link that in the description below because I think it's really interesting for people to see. But nonetheless, that's what I would do for your animation to help you improve it. So I think that's going to wrap things up for this month's animation challenge, and I hope you guys have enjoyed, you know, my critiques, my views on what these animators can do to improve their work. If you want to improve your work, or help you improve your work in the way that you've seen in this video, then please drop me a message on Twitter, hit me up at info@advancedanimationacademy.com, and we can talk about what we can do to help improve your animation skills, whether that's mentoring, online courses, or just general advice with animations. At the Advanced Animation Academy, we've got you covered. So nonetheless, I'm going to wrap up this video now. It's been a blast, and until next time, take care. Do you want to become a better animator? Then check out the Advanced Animation Academy. The Advanced Animation Academy is an online school that is dedicated to helping animators advance in their career. We offer a wide range of courses and services to help you on your journey to become a successful animator. Animators of all skill levels are welcome, from aspiring animators to juniors to mid-tier and even seniors. Visit the Advanced Animation Academy and take advantage of our exclusive promotion, where we have reduced our course prices from £500 to £300 if you enter the code launch sale at checkout. That's just less than £25 a week. Make the most of our services such as consultations, mentorships, online courses, and Project AAA, where we help you conceptualize, design, and iterate a personalized and unique animation shot that is sure to be the greatest shot you have ever made. All packaged with stunning lighting, rendering, and visual effects applied. Visit the advancedanimationacademy.com and advance your career today.